June came and went, and we have quite a few amazing matchups to discuss. Y'all know how this goes already, let's just get to the point, starting with the Death Battle Cast section. Number 4, Luffy vs. Vice. They are both young pirates who chase their dreams after being inspired by their idols. They are both captains of different crews that go against the main authority that they view as corrupt. And most importantly, they both have scars on their right eyes. I mean, it's right there, guys. Liam repped Luffy and Ben repped Vice. Ben was at a disadvantage for this cast. And if you know Luffy, you know why. And no, it's not because Luffy is made of rubber, meaning that blunt force trauma, electricity, and fire have little effect on him. It's because of his other abilities. Sure, he can stretch his limbs, but he also has precognition, can harden his body, and even make people submit to his will with haki. That's just his base form. If that was all Luffy could do, Vice would take this victory. Vice has his different moonstones that he can equip to his weapons, which lets him do different things. Kinda like Materia. The green moonstone lets him heal damage and status effects. Red lets him use fire attacks that resemble a nuke, as well as enhances attack and defense. Blue lets him use wind, put foes to sleep, and increases speed. Purple lets him use ice attacks as well as different mental manipulations. Yellow lets him use lightning attacks and cause debuffs, and silver lets him revive. Out of everything in his arsenal though, Eterna might be his strongest move, being able to instantly kill an enemy with an attack that will always hit. Too bad Luffy's Gear 5 makes that almost impossible. Luffy uses different gears to power himself up. Gear 2nd makes him faster and stronger. Gear 3rd lets him inflate his limbs. Gear 4th is the one that everyone knows, where his body becomes large and is covered in black haki, letting him hit hard with multiple limbs and essentially fly in the air. And finally his Gear 5th, which lets him channel the power of the god Nika, which gives him Toon Force, the ability to turn anything, including lightning, into rubber, and can essentially turn his imagination into reality. Most importantly though, Gear 5th gives Luffy a way to heal himself and even revive himself if he dies, meaning an instant kill move isn't the end. But this isn't as one-sided as you may think. Vice has different special moves and weapons to even the odds. He has the Dream Cutlass, which can rip the fabric of reality and make dreams come true. He has the Sky Fang, which split the heavens. And he has the Soul Sword, which has a high chance to cause instant death, all of which very impressive. But Vice has an ability called Pirate's Wrath, which some describe as Vice creating a dimension and blowing it up, which is consistent with his other weapons I just listed. I do think Vice has a fair shot at winning. They are both planet to large planet level, so neither would have generally a power advantage. And although Haki cancels out magical abilities and Vice can't take advantage of Luffy's weakness to the ocean or sea stone, he can turn himself invincible to try and deal with Gear 5th. Gear 5th would be running on a time limit. And most importantly, he has a tuna fish sword, which would distract Luffy long enough for Vice to get the kill. Truly his best win con. Damn, I love this matchup actually so much. And admittedly, I might be coping when I say Vice should win. I just want to see Vice on the show so badly. A great game that came from an amazing console. Oh, the nostalgia it would bring. Number 3, Sans vs. Springtrap. So as far as I can see, there really isn't much in terms of connections here. These two are both creatures from indie games that have some themes of horror in them. I couldn't find anything else. Not to say I don't get it though. For me, it does make a lot of sense, but I'm more interested in the debate. Sans is repped by DJ, and Springtrap is repped by Max. I love when we have some good old editor debates. These two are brimming with personality, even more so than the characters they debate. In any case, Springtrap has a lot to work with off the bat. He has a stealth mode, can cast illusions with special musical discs, has healing items, can resist fire, and does have an animatronic army, so he has multiple ways to deceive and overwhelm Sans. Sans, I think, actually has an advantage here. Since his attacks can harm the soul, Sans can increase and generally control gravity, teleport himself as well as his opponent, throw bones in the air, have bones stick up from the ground, and can use these things called Gaster Blasters, which shoot out beams of energy. Springtrap has a knife. Okay, well, his physical options aren't as impressive, but Springtrap can revive himself and rebuild his body if it's destroyed, use something called Remnant to possess objects, and can inject his soul into a person to poison them. Springtrap isn't the only one here with poison though. Sans has Karma, which poisons evildoers every single time they are hit with an attack. Karma does more damage the more evil a person is, meaning Afton will sustain major damage. Determining a winner is hard because of many factors. For one, we need to determine the turn order. If Afton goes first, he can initiate Counterbite, which will reflect back any attack the enemy throws. Since enemies in Undertale and FNAF's world can't dodge, This should be a guaranteed hit, except Sans is the exception to that rule, being the only character to dodge any attacks in Undertale. Sans could get overwhelmed if his stats didn't match up, but from what I can tell, they should be similar if you use the FNAF world scaling. So I think Sans wins. The fact that he can attack the soul in my eyes means that Remnant won't be able to regenerate Afton's body. If Afton's soul is obliterated, he's done. This is a fun matchup though, which I'm sure surprises people who know me. Look, I don't like Springtrap, but I can't hate him every single time he's brought up. Plus, I really like Sans, so that's a win for me. Not my favorite matchup this month, but definitely not one I need to complain about. Number 2, Luz versus Akko. These two are both positive and happy-go-lucky people who are in love with the magical world around them, while they don't innately have magic themselves. There's a lot more subtle connections, but you get the gist. Akko is rep by Aaron, that beautiful soul, and Luz is rep by Liam, that equally as beautiful soul. Now this fight is interesting. Luz versus Anne is obviously one that people want a lot, but honestly, it's a close call for me which one I like more. Debate-wise, this is really fun. Luz fights using glyphs because she naturally can't use magic. She has to use pieces of paper to perform magic, but she always has a lot of paper on hand, so it's practically not a detriment to herself. Luz can shoot lightning, light, ice, cast plant magic, turn invisible, teleport, summon mist, sleeping gas, water, and tornadoes. The bigger the glyphs, the stronger the magic it summons. Akko has a shining rod that lets her perform transformation magic. She can turn any of Luz's magic attacks into almost anything she wants. She can even alter the size of objects, animals, and even Luz herself, which is a big disadvantage. On top of her transformation magic, she has the Shining Arc, which is a bow and arrow that was able to scar the moon, and a mech that does something. They weren't very specific. Luz has a shapeshifting animal called Stringbean. This animal can fly and shoot fire, and since it can shapeshift, it might be able to resist Akko's transmutation. Luz can petrify people with the Monster Hand, and has a super form that makes her stronger than the Collector, who can move the sun and the moon effortlessly, as well as lets her use magic naturally. Calling a winner may sound easy at first. Luz should be stronger and faster, but Akko is as strong as she thinks she is and has magic that can alter the world. If Luz loses her form, I think it's a done deal. So it's a matter of stats versus hacks. And in that case, Luz wins. I think the speed and strength difference is just too much. Akko most likely could match Luz in strength if she really believed hard enough. But more likely than not, Luz can just blitz her with speed or just turn Akko into stone. I really like this fight though. I can see why people want it, just as much as Luzanne. Just don't be toxic in the comments. People can like both matchups like I do. It's just okay to have a preference if there's two good matchups. Speaking of preference, we have one more Death Battle cast to discuss, which is number 1, Ganondorf vs Sauron. I actually talked about this matchup in my DBM cast ranking video quite recently, so I'll skip the connections and go straight into the debate. Speedy reps Sauron and Liam reps Ganondorf. They didn't go as in-depth as the DBM cast did, but they did go over the most important bits. For instance, Sauron has the ring. With the ring, Sauron has resistance to almost anything. The elements, magical abilities, mind and soul manipulation are practically useless on him. The One Ring is immensely powerful and almost indestructible, but Ganondorf does have some important things on his side. He has the Triforce of Power and the Gloom. The Gloom was a destructive force that was able to decay a holy weapon as powerful as the Master Sword. So there is arguments that it could do the same thing to the ring, but the ring does have resistances to being decayed. Speedy also admits that the ring could be destroyed by Ganon if it was hit by a direct attack, but Ganon also has another advantage on top of that. Ganon can sense magical objects, to which Speedy argues this by saying that Sauron is immune to clairvoyance. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm pretty sure Ganondorf doesn't use clairvoyance to spot magical items. I'm pretty sure he can just sense them by directly looking at them, but I could be wrong there. Ganondorf and Sauron can survive as spirits, recreate their bodies, and Ganon can even create a phantom version of himself to fight alongside him. Ganon can only be killed by holy weapons, but Sauron was an angel. Speedy argues that since Sauron is an angel, he should be seen as holy, but he is a fallen angel and his soul has been corrupted, so I'm not quite sure if that would really count. Sauron can stop time, but Ganondorf can resist time stops. Ganon can target the soul, but Sauron's soul destruction and manipulation is on a much higher level. Sauron can cast illusions, but Ganon's AoE attacks would harm Sauron no matter where he is. Do you see why this is cool? They counter each other so well. Both can shapeshift, both have mind manipulation, but Sauron's is better, and they can both kill each other, but who would obtain that victory first? I think I can go either way, but I'm leaning towards Ganondorf. He's thousands to millions of times stronger and faster than Sauron. Sauron may be able to fight for an insane amount of time and has a high amount of energy, but I think just keeping up with Ganon and taking his attacks will take its toll on Sauron and make his power deplete quickly. Not to mention Ganon has a vast array of abilities, so Sauron will always be on his toes. Suffice to say, I love this matchup. I loved it on the DBM cast, and I still love it here. What a wonderful idea. This might be breaking into my top 10 most wanted soon. That's how good I think this is. I hope to God we see it happen. It is an idea truly worth exploring. Now we transition to the fan battle casts. Before I start my ranking, I want to talk about a podcast they did momentarily comparing multiple Undertale/Amphibia matchups. I'd figure I'd just bring this up even though there isn't much I can say here. First off, they bring up Sans vs Sprig. They just kind of mention it and there isn't really much to say there. They talk about Andreas vs Asgore, and I feel like this is a wanted matchup, but nobody on the cast really seemed to like it. There's a clear size difference between these two. Andreas is just much larger, and apparently Andreas has such a wide arsenal that you need to downplay him quite a bit for things to be fair. It seems it has cool connections and thematics, but not a good debate. Toriel vs Hop Pop also seems kind of fun connection-wise. It's probably a closer debate, but suffers from the same issues of both characters not really having much to work with. Undyne vs Yunnan seems to be all of their favorites, at least debate-wise. They both have plenty of abilities, both have good fighting skills, solid connections, and because Undyne is really strong, it's a better debate. The last matchup they mention is Asgore's army versus Andreas' army. I don't know Amphibia at all, but army fights are always so fun, and it would bypass Asgore's getting stomped into the ground, so it's all good with me. If you are interested in either of these series, I'd give this cast a watch. It's really fun and they seem to have some passion for these series. Anyway, let's start my ranking. Dracula vs Leela Van Rogue. Both of them are long-lived magical beings who spent most of their lives hating humans, but were eventually shown kindness by one, which changed their outlook on all of humanity. However, both lost someone important to them due to the cruelty of humans. Dracula loses his wife, Leela his queen, and how they respond to these moments splits their lives. Dracula couldn't get over his grief and waged war on all of humanity, while Leela grew to love humanity, even choosing to adopt and raise the infant son of the knight who killed his queen, out of respect for letting him escape with the queen's son. Thank you, table, for the list of connections. I couldn't find them anywhere else. Dracula is rep by Sol and Leela is rep by Table. As someone who isn't familiar with either character, it's hard for me to understand this one, at least based on what the fight could be. Dracula can manipulate fire, create firestorms, can set giant cities on fire, turn into fire, and create a fire twister. On top of this, Dracula can levitate, fly, teleport, and shoot lightning. But those last three things Leela can do as well. Leela can shoot lightning, turn into living lightning, teleport, use magic that buffs herself and debuffs others, can fire a beam of light, and has a magic pen that helps regulate her powers. I think it's pretty clear to me that Dracula loses this one. Dracula has regeneration, but Leela can null regeneration. Leela has her mage arm, which is a cleaver that separates and turns into a whip to give her a ranged advantage. But Dracula can summon a demon army to overwhelm her. But even then, she has her light magic and has a pretty good speed advantage over Dracula. Dracula can teleport his castle to the battlefield, but Leela can use her Far Cry cradle to replay memories in Dracula's castle to distract him. What is Dracula supposed to do to someone so Wait, did Saul just bring up a moon level feat? Oh, now Dracula should take the speed and strength advantage by quite a bit. So like I've been saying, Dracula has this hands down. This debate was fun. I just don't get the matchup in theory. I think I just need to know more about these characters before coming to a conclusion. Let's move on to something equally interesting. Number 10. Hunter vs Baggie. Two warriors that had left their factions after a conflict of morality. Both developed a found family. Both hid what they were to the ones closest to them. And they both have iconic facial scars. And important for this month, they are both queer characters. Hunter being bi and Baggie being a lesbian. And in the month of June, where it's be who you want, love who you want, including yourself, I think that fact is awesome. It's also the reason that this and the last cast were done, even though they weren't pitches. Steve and Moore repped Baggie and Kai repped Hunter. So right off the bat, we didn't get much on Baggie because we just don't know a lot about her right now. We know that she fights with an angelic spear, she can fly with her wings, has knives she throws, and can only get harmed with angelic weapons. Well, until the writer forgot about that part of the story and had angels get harmed by a table and a rock. But I don't know how much bad writing affects debates. Hunter can fly, can teleport, shoot lightning-shaped beams, and has a staff he fights with. His magic is actually kinda crazy. He can fire energy blasts, has a big fist that lets him travel through the ground, can reflect spells, which wouldn't really do anything here, has telekinesis, can increase his speed with magic, create barriers/shields, can create swords, can use a talisman to turn into an animal, and has a bird that can send Hunter magic or revive him if he dies. This magic is awesome, but Baggie's weapon can cut through magic, so Hunter's options could be limited. This is a hard fight to call. Baggie is more experienced while Hunter is more skilled, but I think it comes down to stats and one other factor. Baggie scaling to Stolas somehow puts her at 15 times the speed of light, far eclipsing Hunter. Hunter should be stronger, but I'm unsure by how much. The last factor just comes down to if you think Hunter can kill her. You decide whether angelic weapons are the only things that will put her down for good, because the writer definitely puts that into question. Overall though, I think Baggie's speed advantage nets her the win. Even if she's so much weaker, she's so fast that a Spirit of the Face is inevitable. Hunter just can't compete in that category. Sherm has been fighting to have Owl House on the show we are making, but I'm not sure if this is the matchup. There's gotta be more to what we see here, because honestly I don't feel Baggie offers enough to make Hunter feel interesting. It might just be me, but this is an okay matchup with an okay debate. Let's move to brighter pastures. Number 9. Consul N versus Archer Emia. These are two alternate versions of the main characters of their stories that are brought back from different points in time. Both had their lives and ideals stripped from them, causing them to want to kill the alternate versions of themselves. And both end up teaming up with the hero to defeat the villain at the end of their respective arcs. This is a cool matchup, I think. Just a bit weird, and here's why. Riddles repped Consul N, and Archer Emia was repped by I Am the Table, who seems to be the fake guy on Fan Battle Cast now. This debate is weird, and I'm not sure how much I actually like it after the cast. I don't think it's bad by any means. I just think there could have been better points brought up as to how this fight would go. There really wasn't much said about Consul N. Most of the cast was dedicated to Archer Emia. Emia is a bow user that uses swords as arrows. He can essentially create swords with his own energy, transmute the sword into arrows, and fire them at opponents. If his weapons are broken, obviously he could just remake them. He uses two short swords for melee combat. These swords aren't the most durable, but they are the easiest swords to remake, so it's not too much of a detriment on himself. Consul N uses the Sword of the End, which is an extremely powerful sword that can bypass durability and immortality. This sword is made from the machine that made the universe, so its potential strength is insane. Speed's no joke either, with both having good arguments for immeasurable/infinite speeds. N's sword isn't the only thing that can bypass defense in this fight. Emia, when shooting some of his arrows, can twist the space and time around a person or object to guarantee a direct hit. No amount of defense or armor can save them. Now here's where things get one-sided, and Archer's means of winning becomes certain. N can boost his crit rate, but that wouldn't matter here. N can lock people out of their skills, but Emia has a magic resistance, meaning he can resist the skill seal. N has great regeneration, can survive as a ghost and regrow his body, but Emia can hit ghosts, could break N's contract with Rulebreaker, and generally has every ability with every sword within the Fate universe. Emia's Noble Phantasm, essentially his unique super ability, is unlimited blade works. This lets him create a shit ton of copies of any blade he's seen before. He can fling these blades at people or use them to have access to almost anyone else's Noble Phantasm in the series. Not to mention, Archer has Eyes of the Mind to see N's attacks before they happen. Has his own sword that bypasses immortality, could copy N's sword to get that same effect, and if any of his weapons break, the Noble Phantasm for that weapon goes to every other weapon Archer has. Emia has this in the bag. There's no doubt about that, and this debate didn't sell me on the matchup, but the story did. What you could do with these two characters who have such strong connections is really interesting. Two people who use different incarnations of who they were to become better people. There's an interesting dynamic there. Debate is really good in terms of deciding on matchups, but story is also a strong factor, and I think above all of these other matchups I'll talk about today, this one has the strongest potential for that. Number 8. Sonic vs. Rainbow Dash. Both are seen as the fastest beings in their worlds. Both greatly value their friendships. Both are sarcastic people and enjoy messing with others, and both have been key in stopping universal threats to their worlds. This one just makes sense. I'm not a My Little Pony guy, but I get this one so much. Sherm reps Sonic and Kai reps Rainbow Dash. This one is pretty simple, so it'll be a quick segment. They are both really fast, but Rainbow Dash flies fast in the sky while Sonic is quick on his feet. How would he compete with Rainbow Dash though? Well, he's got plenty of equipment. Sonic has an electric shield that will attract metal objects, platform shoes that let him create platforms in mid-air, and multiple wisps that will let him turn into a rocket or even a beam of light. Rainbow Dash has the element of harmony, which lets her resist Sonic's more hacksy abilities as well as generally increasing her powers. Sonic's electric shield could take the element of harmony away from Rainbow Dash, but she could just call it back to herself. Rainbow Dash can control the wind and attack people with lightning storms, but Sonic can resist both wind and energy, plus he can create his own tornadoes. The winner is decided by their super forms. Rainbow Dash has her rainbow form, which increases her powers. Sonic has his supersonic form, which does the same thing but gives Sonic flight and invincibility. Sonic's form has a time limit, but Rainbow Dash's doesn't from what I believe, so that can give her the edge. But Sonic is far more skilled and experienced, so he could defeat Rainbow Dash before his time limit is up. I'll flip a coin and see who would actually win this. It came up Rainbow Dash, but I still think Sonic wins. I don't know why I did this bit. The only thing Sonic can't compete with is that Rainbow Dash has an ability that makes herself beyond cool. But does this net her the win? Nah, I'll stick to my guns. It's close though, almost 50-50 for me. It's a fun matchup that I wish I liked more, to be honest. I wish I could rate this higher, but this is just not my pick for Sonic. I wouldn't be mad if it happened, but I'd honestly hope for something else. Now let's get into a funny matchup. Number 7, The Chosen One versus Sing. I didn't write a connection section for this, apparently, but they're two martial artists who are the chosen ones of their own movies, and both of them are comedic parodies of kung fu films. I really don't think you need to get any deeper than that. In this cast, Moloch reps Sing and Rand rep The Chosen One. This is super fun. They are both martial artists who can do some crazy things. The Chosen One may be a better fighter, but Sing is a better schemer who is a tad bit cowardly. They both have flight of sorts. Sing can levitate slightly and the Chosen One can do a spinning kick to fly. They are both insanely durable. The Chosen One can survive a whale dropping on him, and Sing has multiple arteries destroyed, and not only did Sing survive, he actively healed himself quickly. That's right, Sing has a healing factor. The Chosen One is stronger, but only with his tongue. There's a sentient being in his tongue named Tonguey, and this tongue can extend immensely. Grab a spaceship out of the sky and slam it into the ground. Sing, from the wind pressure from his palm, was able to break buildings, but that comes nowhere close to that amount of power. Deciding a winner was pretty easy for me though. The Chosen One can fight a cow, can lift himself in the air with his lungs, and can even punch a hole straight clean through someone's body. But none of this helps him if he can't hit Sing. Sing can react to bullets and dodge sound, a level of speed the Chosen One just isn't used to. With that, his regeneration, and his palm attacks, this should net Sing a win. I'm unsure if DB would ever do this matchup, but I love it so much. An animated fight between these two would be stellar, and honestly something that would put a big dumb smile on my face. Number 6, Goblin Slayer vs Styx. I actually don't think there are many connections between these two. I think it could be boiled down to one is a human that likes to kill goblins and one is a goblin who likes to kill humans. It's simple, but I don't think you need anything else to come up with a great idea. I think people get too lost when finding deep connections that they don't realize that you don't need a long paragraph of connections to make a fun fight. Sometimes a fun fight can be built upon amazing contrasts as well. And let me tell you, this fight and debate is so fun. Moloch repped Goblin Slayer and next Berserker repped Styx. There's a lot to this dynamic. Goblin Slayer is super strong, fast, and very maneuverable. He wears chainsaws around his body and leather around his neck, protecting him from piercing attacks and poison. This is useful since Styx fights with multiple daggers. He has a special dagger called Vampire, which has fangs that drain HP. There's the Tamper dagger that kills without a sound, the Amber dagger that absorbs amber, which is just magic tree sap, and the Acid dagger that can vaporize people in armor. This last one sounds deadly to the Goblin Slayer, but he's a very crafty and elusive person. He can use almost anything he finds to kill goblins. He even once killed one with a pebble. For his own equipment, Goblin Slayer has a boomerang throwing knife, a deviled egg which is essentially tear gas, has ways to block gas and poison, a ring that lets him breathe anywhere, a poison gas he created, uses a method for freezing ice cream to kill someone, has multiple stamina and health potions, and can even teleport an enemy to any place he marks, which includes the bottom of an ocean. This is all well and good, but Styx is sneaky. A lot of his combat potential stems from traps and catching the enemy off guard, like his acid traps that are pressure mines that vaporize people, the acid vial, throwing knives, a glass bottle, crossbow bolts, a poison bolt that goes through shields, multiple poisons that will kill someone quickly, many armors to up defense, and has a cloak of invisibility, which will make him completely invisible. But he can't use magic in this state. That'd be a big disadvantage for the Goblin Slayer. If Goblin Slayer wasn't innately aware of his surroundings, he is always on alert, literally being able to sense goblins. He wouldn't play around like Styx does. He'd always go for the kill first try. If Goblin Slayer is blinded, he could just fight using sound, which is crazy, and can even be as stealthy as Styx is. This fight is already so crazy, but Styx doesn't just rely on his stealth. He has amber vision, which lets him see enemies through walls, can create clones of himself, can bind people, can create a lethal clone to Chaozu someone, has a vial of amber which will regen his magical abilities, can become incorporeal, intangible, has a sense to know when he's being watched, and if he is harmed a lot, he could just transfer his consciousness to another one of his clones. Styx is busted, but Goblin Slayer has this in the bag. Goblin Slayer is used to fighting while injured, overwhelmed, and outstatted by his opponents, and yet he always follows through. He dwarfs Styx AP, but doesn't hold up in SP. Although Styx can slow down time, so this might be more of an advantage than I initially thought. But this came down to fighting instinct for me. Styx would be more playful, while Goblin Slayer is deadly from the first second the fight begins. Stealth wouldn't matter, so it's down to a face-to-face encounter. And seeing as Goblin Slayer can use gasoline to collapse a whole island, it wouldn't matter how far Goblin Slayer tried to run, he just wouldn't be able to escape his own death. This matchup is one that I really want to see happen, and yet there are still 5 other matchups I like more than this. I wonder what they could be. Number 5. Aku versus the Lich. These two are primordial evils that crashed into Earth from outer space, being the reasons that the dinosaurs went extinct. These two were sealed away after trying to take over the world by strong warriors, with both objects being used to seal these two eventually being broken to release them back into the world. They both somehow made kids that they tried to manipulate, and most interestingly, they found that their evil deeds started to bring them nothing, both eventually just destroying and conquering because it's just what they do now. Thematically, I love this matchup, but when it comes to the debate, at least this debate, damn. Sherm repped Aku and Saul repped the Lich. So straight up, neither of the debaters think Aku wins. Saul has made a blog and claims Lich would win. And Sherm had started his 60 seconds by pretending to rep Lich because he knows Lich wins. Anyways, let's get into the debate. Lich has some really cool abilities. He can create lightning, fly, shoot energy blasts, teleport, create force fields, turn invisible, heal, manipulate his size, and read others' minds. Well, at least the minds of chickens. Aku has no physical form, but Lich's attacks should still harm him. Sherm says that only goodness can harm Aku, but I think Lich can bypass whatever defense Aku has. But Aku can regenerate his body from almost nothing, so it'd still take a lot to take him down. The Lich can control minds and possess people, to which Aku has never been shown a resistance to before. But Sherm argues that Aku doesn't have a brain, so that shouldn't work. No, that's silly. His better argument is that Aku's mind corrupts people, meaning that trying to control Aku's mind may end up harming someone else instead. That's so much more compelling. Although Aku never corrupts the undead, so now we're back to square one. The Lich can cause fire to appear, shoot fireballs, and create a ring of fire, while Aku can shoot beams of energy, control the weather, and shapeshift. The Lich definitely has the edge in a lot of categories, but it is interesting. The Lich can turn into gas, but it doesn't help him here. He can make people fall, put people to sleep, or stop somebody's movements with mind manipulation, but this wouldn't really do much to Aku. And Lich can see all of the past and future and alter reality, but Aku also has precognition and can create his own pocket dimensions where he can change people's clothes. And probably more that I don't know. Lich is a better strategist and trickster, but Aku is better at thinking on the fly. They can both revive the dead and spawn armies, and both have ways to control each other's armies. You see what I mean? The debate is so interesting. The winner depends on what you think is more likely. For Aku, if you think he would BFR Lich into a place where time no longer exists, then Aku wins. Or you can go with my choice and say the Lich wins because he is so much more stronger and faster than Aku. In being a primordial evil, he should be able to erase beings and bypass Aku's regeneration. The debate here was a little weird, but this is so fun. These two bounce off of each other really well and it makes for a compelling discussion. I love Samurai Jack and I want it back on the show so badly. So hopefully they do this one. It's unique and really fun. Number 4. Dr. Cortex vs. Spectre. These two are geniuses who plan to take over the world with unorthodox armies, utilizing space and time manipulation to control everything all at once. And both continuously fail, but they never give up in obtaining their goal. Finally, a Cortex matchup I really like. There's so much to love here. Let's get into it. Paul reps Spectre and Rand reps Cortex. Get ready for some PlayStation fun right now. Cortex definitely has some great equipment. For instance, he has a plasma gun that can pacify, stun, set on fire, and pull people in like a tractor beam. Spectre isn't much of a hand-to-hand fighter. He does have dual stun clubs, but most of both of their arsenals comes from their machinery and mechs. Cortex has an anti-grav suit, hoverboard, jetpack, and jet boots to keep him mobile in the air. And Spectre has his hover throne, which lets him fly through the sky. So Cortex would really have that advantage in the air and up close. Spectre has the nanocannon and shrink ray to make people the size of a bug, while Cortex has a shrink ray that will shrink all of Earth to the size of a sphere. Advantage for Cortex there as well. Cortex has a beam that transmutes, but Spectre has the Monkey Morpher, which can transform every human into monkeys, giving Spectre the advantage there. They both have multiple force fields to protect themselves, but Spectre also has telekinesis, can summon clones and create shockwaves. If Cortex doesn't have his equipment, Spectre would take this easily. Even though Cortex could survive without his brain, smash metal with his head, and has some Toon Force durability, he still would have a hard time keeping up with Spectre's wacky equipment. Cortex with his tech could make 16 copies of himself though, so there actually might be a way for Cortex to fight back against the Spectre clones. Cortex has the Hindenburg, a big blimp that could shoot massive ice blasts. Spectre has the Battlecruiser, which fires missiles, deploys mini UFOs, and shoots fire. Advantage Spectre. Cortex has the same vial that made Crash, but it doesn't really do anything here. Cortex has a mind control helmet that is made from Aku Aku that lets him mutate the user, while Spectre can mind control someone using a TV. They tie in this category. Cortex has the Monster Syrup, which turns him big and strong, but Spectre can counter that with the Goliath mech. Cortex has a robot that can destroy the Wumpa Islands, but Spectre has the Saru 03 space station, which can split the Earth in half. Not to mention Spectre has the Spectre Voltron, which can assemble continents and bowl with planets. Suffice to say, this fight is amazing, but I'm gonna be the odd one out and say Spectre gets the win here. With stats they are about even for the most part, but even though Cortex could send someone to the 11th dimension, can slow time with Entropy's staff, and can use Uka Uka to mind control an opponent, shoot lasers, or even make Cortex invincible. Spectre has his entire monkey army who can overwhelm Cortex, and most importantly, is way smarter. There's a better chance that Cortex will get mind controlled well before he can deal with Spectre's army, with there only being a small amount of time before his defeat. But I can easily see this going the other way around. This, without a doubt, is one of my favorite fights. And yet there's still 3 ahead of this one. This month is so great. Number 3, Weeping Angels vs SCP-173. These two are ancient beings that stalk and kill their foes in the shadows, being completely still while people are looking at them. Kinda like a statue. Oh boy, this is a complicated matchup. Saul repped the Weeping Angels and Sherm repped SCP-173. Right off the bat, what needs to be understood is that these beings are statuesque creatures that move when there's nobody looking at them. But they do have some differences. For instance, the Weeping Angels aren't statues. They predate statues since they existed at the beginning of time. Statues are actually based off of them. The way the Weeping Angels survive is by eating people's existing lifespan, adding to their lifespan whatever years that person had left to their own life. They can see in the darkness, create lights that are so bright that it blinds people, can feed off of radiation, and even kill a person with a touch or send a person to space or through time. If a person meets their past self, they can create blue energy that nearly killed even the Doctor. And if the Weeping Angel touches you in the past, it means you can't return to the future. 173 is also really impressive. It wins almost every single one of its fights in SCP, which is just crazy. Just like the Angels, 173 attacks when he isn't being perceived and can mess with lights. That's where the similarities end. 173, I shit you not, has shit manipulation. They can shit on the floor to distract people, spawn shit inside cameras to cause them to malfunction, and can create beings from its shit as well as hand constructs. 173 is immensely powerful, immortal, and could easily turn the Weeping Angel to dust. The Weeping Angel is no slouch though. They can reform after being destroyed, survive millions of years without food, and can even end their cosmology if they wanted to. These angels can also climb up walls, fly, and are very intelligent. 173 can kill without actually touching a person and can affect technology in a way where he can turn lights and TVs on and off. But angels have a special resistance to this. So if an angel is seen on a monitor, picture, mirror, painting, or even drawing, that angel becomes real and can harm people. Other people have tried turning monitors off on Weeping Angels, and it just doesn't work. This could realistically turn into an army fight. Shit versus statues, let's go. The angels have more ways to absorb 173's energy or just blow them up with a kiss, but that'll be hard with 173's abilities. He has long arms all over his body to defend him from all sides, can revert his body back into himself if transmuted, can survive multiversal destruction, can make its shit acidic to melt through concrete, can reassemble itself if killed, and has so much energy that I doubt the angels could absorb all of it, but the angels just have better win cons. Angels are much faster, can bend the laws of physics, can crawl into a person's eyes with eye contact, can turn off the sun, erase timelines, and most importantly, BFR 173 to the end of time where he would just float into nothingness forever. And here you thought this fight was simple. This is such a fun idea, as are most SCP matchups I'm coming to find. If Death Battle, or even myself for that instance, ever decide to do this fight, I'd be enamored from start to end. But this fight isn't number 1. It's not even number 2. What can possibly take those spots? Number 2, Lucina vs Estelle. They are both daughters of famous heroes. Both would then become heroes themselves, and both had met their fathers during their journeys. It's honestly not much in terms of connections, but that doesn't stop me from loving this matchup so freaking much. Radiant Cactus reps Estelle and is the person who pitched this matchup, and Lucina is repped by Todd Black? I've seen that guy around on YouTube and Death Battle's Discord, so it's nice to see him here. The debate to this is really fun. Lucina can have many weapons, blades, spears, axes, magical tomes, a bow and arrow, a bow that can crack the ground with lightning, etc. She can switch between these weapons whenever she likes, making her very versatile. On top of this, Lucina can be almost any class, each with their own stats and advantages. She can be a Lord, Great Lord, Cavalier, you get it. Her main weapon is the Falchion, an unbreakable blade that can heal her in combat. On the other end, Estelle seems more limited. She wields a bow staff which is also indestructible. Where Lucina has her weapons, Estelle has her skills. Estelle can shoot fireballs, make herself faster, can grant buffs and deal debuffs, has a rush attack that will heal her, can boost her attack, force an enemy to focus on herself, and even has an Earth Guard that will completely nullify a single attack used against her. Estelle shows a lot of magical prowess, but with tomes, Lucina can use dark, light, lightning, wind, and fire magic at long range, so Lucina might take the edge there. When it comes to individual skill though, Estelle has Lucina beat. Estelle can shoot ballistic energy from her staff, has a radial attack called Hurricane, and can target enemy weak spots and break attacks with her Hard Break. Lucina can take some massive damage from any of Estelle's skills, but Lucina has plenty of items to keep herself in the fight, items that heal, boost stats, cure poison, and even summon merchants. Lucina has multiple skills including Aether, which recovers Lucina's health while giving her a buff that ignores half of the enemy's resistances, Vintage, which will let her take an enemy's turn when she's under half health, Astral, which lets her attack 5 times while dealing half damage, can up her hit rate, half damage from all attacks, and can summon enemies that will heal her if she kills them. She has a lot of ways to heal essentially. Estelle has both active and passive healing as well though. She has various arts that will make things hard for Lucina. With arts, Estelle can poison, petrify, mute, blind, put to sleep, prevent physical movement, and even kill Lucina instantly with Death Blow. Although Lucina has lethality, which does the same thing, so they cancel each other out there. For the instant kill move to be effective, someone would need to have a serious speed advantage. Lucina has heightened senses and is fast enough to dodge lightning. Estelle is fast enough to create after images and dodge bullets. Lucina is definitely faster, but getting close to Estelle and dodging all of her attacks may be tough when she can scan a person to identify their weaknesses, can make herself undetectable, can deflect other people's death blow attacks, she can summon an energy puppet that will take the killing blow for her, she can use one of the 4 elements on her staff to give it elemental properties like freezing people, can up her accuracy and dodge rate, etc. Estelle wins this in my eyes. She doesn't have the speed advantage, but she takes every other category. If Lucina used her magic tomes, Estelle's crescent mirror could deflect it. If Lucina closed the distance quickly, Estelle could turn invisible to get the surprise attack on her. And if Lucina attempted to run away, Estelle can harm Lucina by summoning a large piece of earth under Lucina's feet to harm her. This matchup is so awesome, but I will say the debate they had went into categories I wasn't too fond of. The first thing is that they kept talking about how their gameplay would affect the fight, which I feel is kinda pointless. There needs to be a translation for a real-time fight. That would have been a more interesting conversation for me. For about the first half of this debate, there was just non-stop Lucina talk. And when we finally got to start learning about Estelle, it got interrupted by more Lucina talk. And lastly, they could have limited the amount of things they discussed. In the beginning of Fan Battle Cast, there were moments where they were just listing things regardless on if they mattered for the debate or not. These debates aren't here to be a compendium of every single bit of information that these characters have. It's meant to take the key arguments on why each could win, and expound on specifics on how certain things would work and why they are important. This was these two's first debate, so I'm just gonna say they did awesome. Way better than my first time in my opinion. But as someone who has been trying to improve, I feel like I should put my input in for them as well. This is also not directed specifically at these debaters. This is for anyone at Fan Battle Cast that may want to improve their craft. And number 1, Geppetto's Puppet versus Alice. These two are darker, twisted versions of old stories that actually heed a lot from their source material. Both are more combat-centric and both characters go through journeys of self-discovery. Look, this is just me as a matchup. If anyone were to ask you what kind of matchup does Plimph like, this should be your answer. Let's get into it. Archive pitched this matchup and repped Geppetto's Puppet, and Rand repped Alice. You want a dark, complex battle? You got one. The puppet has rapiers, electric hammers, saws, axes, and a gunbrella. The puppet's arm can be used for many weapons as well. He can make a shield, shoot missiles, stab, can shoot blue fire, has an electric blasting arm, and can even shoot acid and grapple onto objects. So the puppet is very mobile. He can swing around the stage and has tons of equipment. Equipment he can customize to have, I think they said, 600 different weapon variants. Alice's arsenal can't match that, but she does have some tricks up her sleeve. Alice fights by invading someone's wonderland, their inner mystical world. She fights using a Vorpal knife, which is a knife that she can slash people with as well as throw it like a boomerang. She has a pepper grinder machine gun that shoots out some very powerful pepper. She can shoot grenades, use an ice thrower to freeze people and make ice walls, can summon enemies from the ground and drop them like meteors, and nuke the screen, expending all of Alice's willpower. Alice uses willpower to shoot and do attacks, meaning she could run out after some time, but Alex can activate a rage box, which would make her stronger and give her unlimited willpower. They can both parry incoming attacks, both have passive healing, and both can revive from the dead. So who wins exactly? I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. The puppet could give Alice the petrification disease or absorb Alice's memories, and Alice could stop time, shrink, turn invisible, or destroy the puppet's wonderland to get the edge in this fight. It's close in my head, really close, but I'm gonna give the edge to Alice. I think even though her arsenal doesn't stack up, her hacks in Wonderland should net her a win here. But my god, am I unsure on this. I want this episode to happen so bad, you have no idea. I really hope DB does this someday. It would make me really happy. So many amazing matchups that I like. Learning about everyone's pitches has been so fun, and I can't wait to learn more. Between the last 2 cast videos, me and Fan Battle Cast have had about the same number of subscribers. I originally added Fan Battle Cast to these ranking videos because I wanted to promote them and give them the attention I thought they deserved. Now I've had the chance to speak with a lot of them and even have appeared on those casts before. It's such a wonderful time. Even if their show becomes vastly more popular than me, I will continue to cover it. I want to see where they go in the future once these pitches have been finished, and I want you guys to take this journey with me. My next video will be the first episode of my new show Versus Community Spotlight, where I shine a light on projects made by people in this community. I'm going to be recording it soon, but I'll be doing an edited down reaction to 3 episodes of the former show Smash Bracket, with a special guest that will give me some insight on the show. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all enjoy what we make there. Me and him are very excited to do this. In any case, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and take care.